Hello everyone, and welcome to the presentation of how attackers break into our valuable systems. Today we will not only look at the theoretical side, but also a little bit on the practical side, how these attacks actually work and how malicious threat actors gain their first foothold into certain systems. My name is Jonas. I'm originally from Switzerland, quite far away. Came to Singapore roughly 1 year ago, and I mainly focus on hacking, cybercrime, threat intelligence, and I'm part of the research team of Fortinet, which we call FortiGuard Labs. We mainly focus on these topics to understand what's going on in the cyber world and what kind of security layers we need to put in place to make the whole environment better and more secure. With that being said, today's demo is kind of a double-edged sword, because offensive security is the similar techniques as the guys who actually use it on a daily basis to attack certain systems. So whatever I show you today is quite dangerous. So please keep in mind, do not use these techniques against any environments where you don't have any permissions to do it. Because whatever you do on an environment where you don't have the permission might get you in quite a bit of trouble. So please keep in mind, whatever you do, do it in environments where you have complete ownership or permission to do it. With that being said, for me, the offensive side in security is quite important and quite interesting, because if we want to protect ourselves, it's very important that we also understand the attacker. Because what we don't know about these attackers might be a problem in the end for us to understand how to defend against. So having a rough idea about how the attackers work and what their techniques, tactics, and methodologies are will help us in the end to defend. Before we start with the demo, though, it's quite important to understand what kind of attackers are out there, because not all of them are the same. For example, we have internal user error. We have people who maintain our infrastructure, and they don't have malicious intents. Sometimes they just do some misconfigurations, maybe they lack time to do proper revision, and they might end up with a small mistake which might lead an attacker into breaking into our systems. So this is one way. Obviously, this is on the threat level quite low, but it's already important to keep in mind that however our infrastructure faces the internet is an entry point for a possible attacker. Then we have the opportunistic hackers and the insider threats. These guys, they want to make money. They have the goal to make money from an inside point of view. For example, if you're already inside a company, you have much more access than working from outside. So what happens sometimes is that if malicious threat actors cannot break into a system from outside, they hire someone who works inside this company and tell him a story about, if you use this USB stick, put it into a corporate computer, we give you a couple $1,000s in reward. On the scale moving to the right, we have the hacktivists. And the hacktivists are quite interesting because usually they're not really interested into the money. They're more interested in their own religion, about their opinion, about how they feel the world is supposed to work. And this obviously can sometimes conflict with interests of businesses, and then they get attacked by these kind of communities. But the main reason why organized crime and cybersecurity is such a big industry these days is the guys on the far right. We have organized crime, and here it's all about the money. We have companies out there which work very similar than normal companies, but their main goal is to make money with malicious purposes. So they also have CEOs, account managers, they have quotas, they have support. And what they do is they attack other companies, blackmail them, and even offer support to pay the money and make the whole process easier. But everything is based on malicious purposes. And then last but not least, we have government-sponsored attacking groups with a lot of fundings, with a lot of money, and these are very powerful and difficult to defend against, of course. But now, let's imagine a cyber attacker. How does it even start? Where does he start? How does he break into our company? These are questions which we should ask ourselves, because we need to understand what is the first step. Where do we need to put appropriate security layers in place so they cannot breach in? These days, if you're good with social engineering and have good phishing skills, you're already made it as a hacker. These days, phishing is the #1 threat. We see most attacks by email, especially during times where marketing from a COVID point of view with Black Lives Matters and all these kind of terms which are out there in the media are heavily abused from malicious threat actors for their purposes when it comes to phishing. And unfortunately, it's not very difficult. I will show this right now in a demo, how easy it is from an offensive point of view to create a phishing website and to launch these kind of attacks against potential victims. So there are two ways which I usually look at phishing, and two techniques which are quite common these days. These are the most common techniques which I see when I do my research, when I interact with these guys and ask them about current techniques, current tactics, etc., etc. First of all, we have a tool called Unicorn. And Unicorn is quite an interesting tool because it allows us very efficiently to create a macro attachment. And the macro attachment is usually the file which you see at the end of your email, which tells you, hey, this is an Excel sheet about financial situations of your managers, about your coworkers. You can open it and get a little bit more information. Or maybe attackers use it with an email about, hey, this is how COVID-19 is spreading in your area. Please open this Word document, and we will tell you where, with an interactive map, how the disease is spreading all over the place. So I bet all of you receive these emails on a daily basis as well, and these attachments are in there. And I will show you exactly how it works and how easy it is for attackers to create these attachments and why it is important to understand the techniques behind them. The second one is something called a social engineering toolkit. And this is very often used for creating phishing websites. So they try to get your attention and redirect you on a website where you put in your credentials. And once they have your credentials, it's very easy for them to log in into corporate websites because they don't need to hack into certain security layers. All they need to do is they use proper credentials, username and password, and log in. With that being said, I will swap to the demo environment and show you how it actually works. So what I have here is my attacking machine on the left, and I have a Windows machine on the right. This is my setup here. And the machine on the left is an operating system which is maintained by a company called Offensive Security, and they provide these toolkits for awareness, for educational purposes, so we can understand how to use these tools to make our environments better secure. In this case, what I did to prepare in advance is I downloaded a tool from GitHub, which is a public website which hosts a lot of different scripts. And the script we use is called Unicorn. So all I need to do is now is to run this script and give the script a little bit more information. So in my example here, I tell him what kind of payload I want to send. The payload is the malicious part of the attack. And I'll tell him what is the IP address of the attacker, so of myself, and which port would I like to use. And last but not least, the macro command enables me to define what kind of attack I'm launching. As mentioned before, we will create a malicious macro here. And all I need to do is hit enter, and this script will create this attack pattern for me now. It even tells me with the output what I need to do now to create this malicious file. To create this file, we will use Windows, for example. So since Windows operating systems support, obviously, a Microsoft Office, and these Office documents are very often used for malicious purposes, we will use in this case as well. So the first thing we do is we need to copy the content from this file, which was just created by the script, so the PowerShell attack txt. And I prepared this in this browser, so when I relaunch here, I can see the IP address here on top of my attacking machine, and all I need to do now is copy the content from the output, which this script provided me. So right-click, copy. And next, we go into Word. We could also do exactly the same thing in Excel or any other Office product. And we go to the Developer Tools, open Visual Basic, open this document, and paste the content. And because this is a newer version, we need to follow the tutorial on the left and remove the subline with sub auto open. And that's all I need to do these days to create a malicious macro. Now I'm saving this file. Let's save it to the desktop and call it malicious document. Save it as a macro-enabled document, save. That's all I need to do. Now comes the interesting part. Once someone opens this file, it will connect back to my machine. So all I need to do as an attacker is I need to prepare. I need to tell my system, hey, someone will probably open this document soon and will call my machine. Please be ready to interact with this target. For that, we use a tool called Metasploit. Metasploit is a very popular hacking framework which offers a lot of easy or a lot of possibilities to launch these kind of attacks. First, we use something called multi-handler. And this is quite convenient because if you think about it, if I send a malicious file to someone, I don't only send it to one single person, I send it to multiple people. And with this multi-handler, I can just wait for all these connections coming in. Next, I need to define what kind of payload I'm expecting. This is exactly the same payload as we defined in the Unicorn script before. There was a reverse HTTPS. Then define what kind of IP address my attacking machine has. And last but not least, I need to define on which port I'm expecting the communication to come in. Once this is done, I hit run, and now I'm just waiting. All I do is I need to wait. I can let this system run as long as I want, and I wait until people open this attachment. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So here, again, on the right side, we're in the Windows part. I open now the malicious file. Once this is opened, you see that macros are per default disabled. But you can customize this in a way where it gives you a message. Please hit enable content to see what you were looking for. For example, if you click here, you will see how the virus is spreading. Just make it a little bit more interesting so people are actually clicking on it. And once this is done, also the error message can be configured. You see here on the left side that I have a connection now. I have a connection to this Windows machine on the left. So if I do sysinfo, for example, I see, oh, it's a Windows 10 machine, it's what kind of domain is connected, etc., etc. So I can already gather a lot of information. But this is not what they are looking for. They're looking for the spicy stuff, so usernames, passwords, keylogger, etc., etc. So one example what I could start, for example, is a keylogger. With simple commands like keyscan start, I'm now starting a keylogger from an external point on this Windows machine. So when a victim opens, for example, Firefox and connects to a different website, let's go to Lazada, for example. I don't think I have internet yet, but it doesn't matter. So it connects every single keystroke. Let's type here, for example, my name, Jonas Walker. So now we go for a key scan and dump it. So it will tell me exactly what every single keystroke was written in here. And as you can see here, we have Jonas Walker, we have Lazada, because I had some delete hits in there as well. It looks a little bit different. But you can see it's very easy to capture what the victim is typing. Or for example, if I want to know what's going on his computer, I can just type screenshot. And now it takes a screenshot from my attacking machine on the victim's computer. And it tells me it's saved under this path. So all I need to do is copy this one, go to my folders, paste it in here. And I can see I have a screenshot of my machine. So I can basically take over the whole machine from here. I have much more possibilities. I just show this to, for example, I can record the mic, I can record the webcam, I can see what kind of streams are running, etc., etc. I could use this machine as a jump host inside a corporate environment now to find the other machine, like the service where the passwords are stored, where the financial data is, etc., etc. So as you can see, very easy once someone has access inside someone's computer with just a malicious macro. With that being said, we exit here, and we will have a closer look at the second part, which was the social engineering toolkit. So one way is a malicious file which you send to a victim. A second way to break into someone's computer is to set up a phishing website. And again, this tool, Software Engineering Toolkit, is installed by default. And all I need to do is I'll tell the tool, hey, I want to start a social engineering attack. So I hit 1. Then the tool asks me, hey, what do you want to do? OK, for the second part, besides the malicious file, we will use now the social engineering toolkit to set up a phishing website. All I need to do for that is use the social engineering toolkit inside Kali Linux. And once it's executed, it asks me, what would you like to do? What kind of social engineering attack? So it gives me a menu with a couple of bullet points. In this case, we choose 1 for social engineering attack. And then it asks me again, what kind of, how would you like to proceed from here? In this case, I would like to create a malicious website. So I hit 2, website attack vectors. Once I've done this, it asks me, do you want to do a web attack or do you want to gather credentials? And again, all I need to do is I tell the system, hey, I would like to gather some credentials. So I press 3. And once this is done, I can decide whether I use a popular website like Google, Twitter, Facebook, or use a dedicated website which I clone. In this case, it's easier and it's faster to just use a template. So we use 1. And let's take Google, for example, here. Number 2 for Google. And once this is done, the computer now runs this phishing website for me. And all I need to do is populate it on the internet and wait until people connect to it and enter their credentials. For example, if I connect to this website here, I will now see a website which looks very similar like Google. But again, look at the IP address here on top and look at the hits on the bottom left here. This is my phishing website. And this is very difficult to spot. Is this the official Gmail website? Is this a phishing website? And even if you enter your credentials, it redirects you to the proper Gmail login. And in the back end, I will gather all your information. So it's very easy for me, once you put in your information in here, to use your credentials and log in with your account information to other websites, especially when a lot of people rely on same passwords for different websites, or even if I have email accounts, I can reset other platforms' password and set it new by myself. With that being said, we will go back to the PowerPoint. And I will show you now what actually happens once you create it, for example, these kind of documents and how you can leverage it. So I pre-recorded a small video to explain this a little bit easier. For example, if I need some targets, who do I send my malicious website or my let me quickly stop here, my phishing website? I can leverage social media in this case. So for example, I use a tool called the Harvester. The Harvester is a tool which is able to gather information from social media websites. In this case, for example, LinkedIn. I will limit it to 500 here. But once I gather these kind of results, I get some possible victims back. So in this case, I can see I found couple of people which might be interesting, especially this chief product officer from a certain company. The next thing I will need to do is to create an email address because I want to stay anonymous. I don't want to have someone who comes back to me. So as an attacker, I create an anonymous email so I can send out these malicious files which we created earlier to all my possible victims. And obviously, the more information you have about a certain victim, the better you can create these kind of attacks. So for example, if I know the the person's manager's name or the secretarian's name, I will create an email address which looks familiar to them. So we have like this kind of trust already established once the email arrives at my victim's computer. These days, Proton Email, which is anonymous and a very secure email service from actually hosted in Switzerland. I don't have anything to do with it. But you can create on this website some anonymous emails and then log in. And once this is done, I will skip a little bit forward and skip the email creating process. Once this is done, I will be able to use this account then to send out emails. And all I need to do is put in a good email description, tell them about a good story about something which might be interested to them. This is very important. This is the key part about social engineering. Know what your audience and your victims are interested in, and then attach this malicious file which we created earlier. And that's all you need to do in a social engineering attack. Know as much as possible about your victim, and then use their curiosity to your advantage. And that's the key point today to take away from this webinar as well, from this presentation. Whenever you get an email and you don't really know from who is it coming from, but it sounds familiar and you don't really trust it, it's very likely that it's phish these days. Phishing attacks are so popular, and they try to exploit our curiosity and send us information, hopefully, so we click on it, so they get access to our environments and informations. So that's usually how they try to trick us with these kind of attacks. I hope this presentation was informative and gave some good insights about how attackers usually breach into computers, environments, and how they use phishing campaigns and attacks to get in with initial access. Thanks a lot for joining today, and I wish you all a wonderful presentations the rest of the day. Thank you.